What am I?
An airplane?
Some podcast junior.
Who am I? Podcast Junior?
Who do you think I am? Broadcast Jones?
Junior?
Jones Jr.
Please.
Broadcast
Jones was
Jr.
my father. Call me Podcast Junior.
Oh, man.
What?
21st Century Media. Like a PSA presents. Well,
That's your dad's podcast. I mean, broadcast. I mean, internet on a computer. What am I talking about?
Games, video 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 games.
It's July 25th, 2012, and on this day in 1868, the territory of Wyoming was founded.
This is Idle Thumbs 66. I'm Chris Remo.
I'm Jake Rodkin.
And I'm Sean Vanneman.
And we are in the past. Or the future.
The distant past. We currently sitting here are projecting ourselves into the future, but you're hearing us from a little further past than normal.
Yeah. So we recorded this 6 days ago, the day after we recorded last week's podcast, because Sean is in the territory of Wyoming.
Yeah, he's celebrating its founding.
Mm-hmm.
From whence he sprang.
No. He sprang from Ireland.
Oh, that's true.
I sprang from Ireland into Wyoming.
Into this office.
And then I flumed from Wyoming to here.
So Sean's not here, so we might talk about stuff that is like a week outdated. Sorry about that.
And if, for some reason the video game industry doesn't exist anymore,
then thank goodness.
Then a lot of this stuff is going to be really,
But wow. The other thing to explain is that we forgot to tell you why last week's was Idle Thumbs 65 and this week's is Idle Thumbs 66.
We recorded episodes in secret during the Kickstarter, and we were just keeping them for ourselves.
They're super good.
They're really good.
Yeah, so the Idle Thumbs podcast no longer exists. We said that last week, but it probably just sounded like a joke. We actually renumbered all of the Idle Thumbs podcast episodes from 1 through 13 to 51 through 63.
So to back that up a little further, to people who don't remember what was going on, the first 51 episodes were just called Idle Thumbs. I'm skating over the detail of 50 to 51. But then when Nick Brecken left the show and Steve Gaynor came on, we thought it would be hilarious and a good idea to start the numbering over again with the Idle Thumbs podcast, episode 1. Then when we came back last week...
that wasn't a good idea.
Yeah,
we thought it was.
It turns out that was a really bad idea, because when we came back this time, we were like, so do we name this episode 1? Do we name this Idle Thumbs 52? Is it the Idle Thumbs podcast episode 14? So that's when we just said...
Is it Idle Thumbs Rising?
Yeah.
We discussed basically every possible combination.
Yeah, we talked about renaming the old one's origins as a joke, but then is also real. But anyway, at the end of the day, we said, fuck it, we're just reunifying everything. So the 51 original episodes plus the 13 Idle Thumbs podcast episodes equals 64 episodes. So last week was 65, and this week is 66.
Yeah.
Thanks/sorry for that.
So the former last episode, which was Idle Thumbs 51, is now Idle Thumbs 64:51 Burning Down the Wolfman. So that's our PAX 2010 panel. So
that's actually what we should apologize for.
Yes.
That one right there.
It's stupid and horrible and confusing, but it's the only way we could we just couldn't figure anything out.
Nobody will remember.
The only thing that matters is that
will be dead.
The only thing that matters is that now they are all accurate chronologically to the order they're numbered in.
Yes.
So the dates go up the exact same way the numbers go up, and it should have been that way from the beginning, but now it is that way for real. So sorry that we were dumb idiots who thought stupid things were funny. We're still
that's all changing now with this new podcast. Anyway, butts. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
speaking of butts, Go ahead, John.
The ones we're holding on to?
Yeah, hold on to them, because this story will knock your socks off. There's
what?
Which won't really affect.
I just wanted to mix.
I was seeing if you were going to go from like butts to socks to hats, so I could say, oh, like a fez.
Just hold on to your hat.
And then we were going to talk about
put it on your butt, and then hold on to it.
What?
Then take off your socks and put on some Vibram 5 fingers, because video games are the new thing.
So Vibram 5 fingers are now a meme. Congratulations, 3 Eps.
Ugh.
Wow, you did it. You brought it home. You did it. You can log it.
Stop saying you did it. I didn't do anything.
You did it.
You are done.
What were we talking about?
Fez.
Yeah, no patch for them. Are they patched the game once?
Yeah, so apparently...
Give us a backstory on that.
Well, I don't know in great detail. I only saw the
Chris, paint us a
blog
picture.
post from Polytron today. But Polytron, the developer of Fez, which is basically Phil Fish, the developer of Fez, I guess they released a title update to Xbox Live that fixed a bunch of issues, but also corrupted like 1% of users' save games. That I could be oversimplifying this, but effectively it did something to mess with the save games of roughly 1% of users. And they realized in order to patch that patch, so to speak, they would have to pay Microsoft $40,000
to do another title update submission.
Yeah, I mean it's
10, maybe 20?
Oh, is it 10,000?
10 or 25.
Okay,
I think it depends on how many updates you put in, but yeah.
So also, you don't want to fail those. It starts to stack. It's like overdrafting your checkbook, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Once you start failing those.
Yeah.
When something goes through cert, then gets kicked, and you submit it again.
Oh God! Oh, please let this one be that. Oh no! Oh God! Yeah, that's what happens.
Entire salaries disappear.
Yeah.
It's cool.
So they basically made the decision that it would cost them so much money to fix this thing that it's better to just accept that only a small percentage of people will be negatively affected.
That is supremely fucked.
Yeah.
Isn't Fez published through Microsoft?
Yes.
So why is...
Well,
I mean, I don't know.
I'm not sure how that works.
I don't
exactly,
know how much we can talk about that, because many of us have or are involved in the production of games which came out of Microsoft first party. But that is surprising to me that a game published by Microsoft would have to pay money to put themselves through cert. That's weird. Anyway, that's gross, and it's not that uncommon when you actually hear about horrible cert horror stories.
Yeah. It's a weird thing.
They're going to work it out.
You know what's funny to me? I was thinking about, and this is, obviously, as everyone knows, I really like PC games, and there's this kind of meme that is sort of, I think, has just wormed its way into people's brains, where anytime anything dumb goes wrong or happens when you're playing a PC game that isn't ideal, there's this like, ugh, PC gaming, am I right? Like, you see Twitter posts like that all the time, even
downloading
from
a 200 meg patch.
Like, it doesn't install right. Oh, PC gaming. Like, all potentially very legitimate issues. But the thing that bothers me is that that's shit that's like an unfortunate thing, that it sucks when that stuff happens, but it's not out of like
it's not institutionalized horrible shit.
It's just like, PC is open hardware, so unfortunately things break sometimes. Like, it does suck. Right. But like, this is a case where it's like an actual entity is making a decision that this is how it's supposed to be.
Right.
And like, I don't feel like console games have that institutional like, console gaming thing for some reason, even though those are the platforms on which stuff like that is actually.
I think it's because it doesn't hit the end user experience. Like, the things that we're talking about are completely. I mean, there's this 1% apparently, and there's this 1% of users who are having an issue, which is kind of unique to the console gaming argument, because, like, Tim made a tweet. Tim Schafer tweeted earlier today about just put up the patch, and if it breaks something, that's on Polytron, essentially.
Yeah.
But that is completely, and I agree with. I mean, I philosophically agree with that. But that is completely counter to Microsoft's entire console agenda, which is put this in the living room and everything just works. It just, you don't have to do any of the things that you have. Like, they don't want an ecosystem where that's the case, because they want moms to plug in and connect and have it all work. So it goes through a really rigorous, and also painful, if you're on the wrong end of it, cert process.
Yeah. And that's totally valid, except the result of that process at this point now requires the developers to make a choice between which users are more valuable.
In this instance, yeah, and that's what's really screwy about it. Like, that's what really sucks. And I think I'm not saying it's a better system, but they've drawn their philosophical lines in the sand of why it's that way.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And I also, my Xbox is actually it's on top of a stack of books right now. Like, it's a stack of hardbounds that are like smaller than it, and it is the top piece and is actually like a weird nightstand on the side next to my bed, because I moved it when I built my PC, and then I realized
you found a Dota.
And then I found Dota. You found Dota.
I did.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about Fez, or we talk about you finding Dota?
I don't know. I think we're probably done with Fez.
Yeah. That's a surprise to me, and is not a surprise also.
Yeah. Well,
does Sony not have this rule, or do they charge less than Microsoft or something? Because it seems
I don't actually know.
Because it loves updating so much more.
They're getting, it does. God, it updates all the time.
It really does.
Weird surprise.
You know what's funny is I'm sure my Steam stuff actually updates at least that much. It just does it silently in the background.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sure there are a million people listening to this podcast who use an Xbox and PS3 way more often than we do at this point, and are like, the hell are you guys talking about?
Yeah.
But
no, it's true. I'm sure that's the case. Speaking of Steam.
Speaking of that seg from earlier about Dota.
Dota. Yeah, so Sean invited me to play with some readers. And Doug as well. Doug was there. So it was Sean and Doug and me, and then 2 members of the Idle Thumbs Lords Management Consortium. And he basically coached us. He and the other 2 guys coached us on how to play, and it was really cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. We set up a Mumble server, and he just sort of talked all the way through everything. We went through every single thing you have to do in that game.
Yeah.
I feel like you got it, though. I feel like towards the end you were like casting stuff and moving at a reasonable clip, and like Doug was just being subsumed by creep waves. But like you were,
I feel like Doug kind of got stranded out there.
Yeah. Well, he picked a kind of a difficult lord, and he's got
choose your lord wisely.
My lord. That's a big part, I think, of the early game, is picking a guy who's going to just like you're going to stick with, who's going to be a lot of fun, who's going to be really usable.
You want one of your more manageable lords early on.
It's like getting into anything. It's like getting into like.
Well, that's what's weird about it, right? Is that most video games aren't like getting into something that you just play them. Right. Even hard multiplayer games most of the time, outside of super competitive stuff. This really feels like getting into something where you need a buddy to like ease you, like help you wade into the kiddie pool first. Like if I didn't have you explaining like how to buy an item, or like what it means that like items have to be dragged here, then you see this like graph that they like, this like flow chart they make.
Build tree,
and it's like, what on earth? I just want to buy a thing. And I mean, just the number of unintuitive things in that game is out of control.
That stuff has to be easier when you're like 11 years old, because you don't know that you're being an idiot.
Exactly.
Where you're just on the server, just UI flying all over the place, and you're just like, I don't know, and then everyone's yelling at you, but you're just sitting there basically spinning your fucking propeller hat at home, also, like whirling around on the ground. You eventually just figure that out. But as an adult, you've got to be like, you're like, I don't know.
Who is this kid who's
just a happy, hilarious like
propeller hat
kid? Yeah, like a 40s kid with Dota 2. Yeah. But like as an adult, you just walk up to that and go,
oh, I can't do this.
Which is horrible. Yeah. By the way, we're old apparently. We're old people.
It's like ski jumping. How they have to train kids in Sweden to ski jump when they're like 5. Otherwise, once you get to age like 8 or 9, like, you're too
I'm aware that I'm scared of the thing that I don't understand.
Yeah.
But you're totally right. I think that's especially true with PC games, because especially when we were growing up, a lot of the really visual PC games were really complicated, crazy simulation things that were largely intended for adults. And like, I would play that stuff because I didn't know any better, and because I was still like, you know, it's like why kids can learn languages faster. It's not. I was
just going to make the comparison. Yeah.
It's not that they're smarter than adults. It's just that their brains are more malleable and receptive, and they haven't formed assumptions and like modes. Like they haven't ossified into the shitty
their entire
creatures of habit that we are.
Is just based around the idea of that's how that works.
Right.
You can, and you can be it can be crazy. That's why you can fuck kids up really bad when they're young.
Like, and there's definitely times when I as a fully grown adult who has played thousands of probably games in my life, hundreds anyway, I don't know how many games.
Trillions.
But like, probably thousands. And I'll load up some complicated game that I'll give like 3 hours, and then I'm just like, I can't I can't deal with this. But I know that the me of 20 years ago would have just, well, 1, I would have had more time to spend. 2, I would have had fewer games to choose between. And 3, I would have just been more receptive to things.
Right.
Like just things.
Well, like,
I would have done it.
If you think about the UI of old PC games.
Yeah.
Like old PC games are basically all UI, and maybe if you're lucky, you have like the one like 2x2 window that has a sick like vector based environment, or like a face, or like a flight sim where the cockpit controls are most of it. In part because you couldn't draw a lot of like airplane, but then the game world and the UI has sort of have slowly traded places to the point where
now
there's
the
almost
ideal
no UI.
is for the UI, to be really
But I think
subdued.
As a little kid, you look at that screen and you're like, oh, sick, buttons to press.
Yeah, stuff to figure out.
Whereas as an adult, you're like, oh my God, all these buttons to press.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And it's funny. That's another thing that I feel like is kind of like the other half of the like, PC gaming, am I right? Is just dismissing it as that. You know, like,
you just look at the UI to StarCraft 2 and go, like, a control panel.
StarCraft 2 is a tame one too.
I know.
But you know what's crazy to think about? Like you, Jake, I'm sure you play, Sean maybe as well. I don't know, play like X-Wing and TIE Fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I had one of those like keyboard overlays for that game that maps all of the like functions.
Doesn't it come with it? Yeah, it came with a cardboard overlay.
Like, when you think about that, when you think about what a Star Wars licensed game would be now, like, because people still make really sort of niche,
like there's Steel Battalion and stuff,
but the idea of a really popular, really critically well received, really successful Star Wars licensed game being a thing that ships with a piece of like cardboard that you can place over your keyboard so you can figure out which button it is that reroutes shields here, which one changes missiles, which one directs your teammates to attack the capital ship. Like,
even if it doesn't,
and that shit was awesome when I was playing it.
The thing is, though, which is sad now, like right now, I fucking wish, like, I kind of do want to get into Dota 2. But I would actually be happy as all hell if I could get a thing like the big cardboard wrap that I could stick around my key or around my display.
That would point to the UI elements?
Yeah, and the cardboard overlay that I could put on my keyboard. Or like keycaps that I could just like like unroll and peel off.
Or like it's Final Cut Pro.
Yeah. I would be so happy. Because
it's funny you say Final Cut Pro, because I was just in my brain comparing this to Pro software.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Just, I don't know. To me, part of the barrier to entry for games like this that I know that I would actually mechanically enjoy and that I did like to play as a kid is just getting over the hump of exposing all of the UI and familiarizing myself with it. So being able to actually just have, okay, that's the button that does that. Like, and that makes me feel like a dumb person because, my curiosity is at apparently an all-time low where I don't want to deal with that stuff, but just, I like a lot that something like TIE Fighter, even if it didn't come with an overlay, came with like the 5x7 card that just lists every default keybind, and you can just go, okay,
right.
And maybe that's stupid, but I'm
gonna design and print you out some Dota
Dota keyboard overlay,
flashcards.
I actually did that when I did that for myself. I think when Civ 5 was it Civ 5? I think it was when Civ 5 first came out. Just for the hell of it, like I was working at a restaurant at the time, and like I just on the office. Printer. I printed like on a color printer. I printed out. Yeah, I printed out like this. I designed in Photoshop a reference card for myself. That
did you use all the official fonts from Civ 5 in the logo and stuff? Like what I would have done in 4th grade?
Or what you would do now still, you mean?
If I made my own Civ 5 card, I wouldn't bother doing that.
Yeah, I don't think I did. I probably used like Futura or like Century Gothic or something because it's a kind of Art Deco looking thing. But like
you at least wanted to evoke Civ 5 with your
but I don't
handmade
think I went that deep into it, especially because a lot of it was just fitting information in, like as opposed to being a beautiful artifact. But I did try to make it look nice, and I had the tech tree and like building paths. And like, I don't know why. I don't really know why I did
because you were excited about Civ 5.
No,
and because you're a dork. Yeah, because whatever. I do that
you're
stuff.
Right. Those are the answers. It was fucking cool.
It's going to be so handy.
It was handy.
It would have been the best if you'd made that the day before Civ 5 came out, where you're like, I'm going to have my tech trees all ready to go.
The Civ 5 like fan wiki.
Well, it's way better if you just make it for yourself, where you're like, Civ 5 comes out tomorrow, and I'm so stoked. I'm going to get ready.
Researching the trees.
You're like, get the knowledge. Got to find out how these build trees are going to work.
I made it myself. I mean, I didn't find it anywhere.
Sorry, I thought you meant sharing it on the wiki. No. But yeah. If the day before you'd been like made your Civ 5 kit, That would be my favorite thing in the world.
Yeah.
Folded a newspaper tri-corner hat. Got ready. Preloaded it and just sat there, the hands on his knees.
Yeah.
Flipping through your index cards.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was really cool. I liked it a lot. I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to tell what I'll think of it when it's actually hard because there's people.
Right.
Because that seems like it would be... Because, it's so easy to fool yourself. It's like any multiplayer game where you're like, I'm super good at headshotting these bots. Like, this is going to be cake. There's no way all the other people are as good at this as I am. I mean, I'm not actually thinking that with Dota. I just know that, that...
Right, where you're like, oh, I felt for a second there, like maybe I had some degree of competency.
Yeah.
Completely wrong.
Yeah.
There was a really good article about why you get destroyed in multiplayer games.
I think I read this, but I don't remember
We talked about this, about
on a podcast.
Any sort of... Might have been during the Progress Cast.
Probably.
There's a couple things in the Progress Cast that kind of are Dota
can't
related.
remember if we talked about it.
Well, remember when he did the really bad audio version of the Dota Cast? So we actually got reader mail on... Gosh, I'll look up who it is at the break, but he wrote in about this word spandrel.
Oh, yeah.
And that completely... and you were talking about this in team chat when we were playing Dota about, oh my god, I can just see all these holdovers from Warcraft 3 in this stupid game.
Yeah.
It's hilarious that they were rebuilt from the ground up.
Well, it was crazy when you see things that are like... that mine that influence for... in a way to take something that in Warcraft 3 was standard and now make it a novelty in Dota. Like I was playing Warlock and that's what I was playing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wanted Wizard.
Because Warlock was the closest thing to a Wizard. So, at least that I could find. And so, you get an ability, your fourth ability, I don't know, is one where you summon this big golem thing.
Oh, yeah.
And you can control it around. So now suddenly you have two guys to control around like you would in an RTS.
Right.
And you can drag select them both, or you can just select each one of them individually.
You can also control keybind them exactly like you would in StarCraft.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Control keybind groups of circles.
So that's taking something that is just like a bog standard feature of the game on which it's based and turning it into a thing that's
this
crazy.
Character's special ability is Blizzard RTS controls.
Right.
I mean, that's all the way through the game. One of the times, there's a mode, there's different pick modes. There's all pick where you can pick any lord you want. There's single draft where you get 3 guys, and there's random where there's just 20 and everybody takes turns picking from a pool of 20 lords. There's also a thing called captain's mode, which is cool, where you get it's basically picking a jury where you say, okay,
what?
You
cry?
Yeah, somebody's the captain on your team.
I'm racist against gnomes.
What? Seriously though, because people are we don't play against lycanthrope. That guy's cheap. We're not. So you have 3 strikes.
Oh, so you can throw out.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
It's a really good mode, and especially when you're on TeamSpeak, especially when you're on Mumble or TeamSpeak server, it's an awesome thing. To be,
do you hear both
just debating, it's like, no, we don't want to play against that guy. No.
See me in chambers.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really good. Captain's mode's awesome. But single draft is something I started playing once I had a competency of just the controls of the game, just because I would only play Lich. I think my record with Lich is 15 and 20. And I haven't really played, I think I've played maybe twice as many games in total. So that's 25, 15 and 20 is 35. I've maybe played 70 matches total. So half of them were Lich. So I just couldn't get away from him. So I'd play single draft where it'd give me 3 guys and I just had to pick one.
Yeah.
And so I did that early on and I picked Lycanthrope. And the first skill at level 1, you can get a skill where he just throws out a couple wolves. So now you have and 2 wolves. And you can say, I'm going to control 1 wolf over here, 1 wolf over here, both of them as a pack, all 3 of us together, over here. And I instantly, without even looking it up or thinking about it, but having played so much Warcraft 3, keybound them all to 1, 2, and 3. And I'm like, oh, that just works.
Oh, that works.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. I was really,
it's really interesting.
Looking backwards at it, I said, oh, I didn't even.
Stuff like that in general makes me really happy in games, even when it isn't the result of something.
But just where someone has found with the intuitive control and just covertly supports it.
Like in Deus Ex 3, I mean, this is other Deus Ex games, as I recall, did this as well, so it's not that surprising. But when you hack something and you already have the code for it, just being able to type in the code on the numpad on your keyboard is one of the most satisfying things. Because most games don't actually do that. Most games...
They treat it as an inventory item that's just sort of materially divorced from the number, basically? Or?
Or they make you use the mouse to point and click on the things because the console version, you need to, drag the cursor around and click on each thing. So
Deus Ex 3 just silently succeeding, effectively?
Yeah, and you can still input it the other ways, but you can also just if your right hand instinctively just goes over to the keypad, it will accept that. And like
that's so good.
That is such a just a mechanically it's something that's exciting on a tactile level, which is something that PC games often don't do. That's something that console games often do better than PC games, is that like direct tactile sensation.
Well, it's also somebody took the effort to wire up the keyboard.
Yeah, just to bother.
I'm sure it wasn't
hard. It's not like it's difficult.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. I mean, it's one of those things where like if you don't have foresight that you're going to want across keyboard keybinds in your game,
it's not.
It's just you don't get it.
It's not.
Ask for it.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm not. Okay, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not insignificant, obviously, but if you've made the philosophical decision that like you want to make a game for the platform, it's a low.
That's the exact point I'm
low
making.
investment for I think a pretty high return.
Right, but it's a thing that people still even sometimes forget about.
Oh, all the time.
Like,
all the time they forget about it. That's why it's
detail in the world.
It's
But like there were Telltale games don't have that many things you can do, but we operated, especially for a long time, in a genre that had a really long history. So for like the Monkey Island games and the Wallace and Gromit games, which were direct control keyboard based things, I went back and was like, okay, in Grim Fandango, what opens the inventory? In Full Throttle, what opens the inventory? In Curse of Monkey Island, what opens the inventory? In all these games, then we were just like, okay, make sure that any of those keys on the keyboard will do that. And then watching some people will press tab, some people will press I, some people will press and I was like, okay, good. Hooray. But just making it so that whatever a person happens to think to do, hope to God that it works, especially if you have the keys to spare. There's no reason not to just hook that stuff up.
Especially on a PC where you have so many keys. Yeah. That's awesome.
So now we're going to release the Telltale cardboard keyboard overlay, except that every key will just say opens inventory.
Like different things on it.
Opens inventory, opens inventory, opens inventory, opens inventory.
You just any key that isn't bound, any signal sent through like the keyboard.
Well, one of them will tell your battalion to attack the command ship. It's a weird choice.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm looking forward to playing more Dota with you guys.
Yeah, that'd be really fun. You have a good group. You should.
It's a reminder. You should go to the Idle Thumbs. Oh, actually, on the homepage of the Idle Thumbs website, we now link to the Lawrence Management Consortium.
Yeah, you've probably seen it because we probably mentioned it last week. But we have a what is this?
An interim
website.
Yes. Maybe we should take a break for a sec.
Sure, let's do that.
Breaks. I say breaks now before breaks. It's a new thing.
Video games.
Oh, did you guys see that Wikipedia link that Steve retweeted? No. Oh man, Steve posted a retweet that someone who just linked to the Inspector Gadget page on Wikipedia with the quote: "Inspector Gadget is a famous cyborg policeman." Oh, that's all.
Yes.
Inspector Gadget is a famous cyborg policeman with a seemingly endless amount of gadgets he can summon by saying "Go Go Gadget," then the gadget's name. The gadget is actually part of the name, as hinted in some episodes. What? The word gadget? What? Anyway, but yeah, Inspector Gadget is a famous cyborg policeman. So that's important information for everyone to learn.
I like that it doesn't articulate that he's not a real person.
Yep.
That he's
he's a famous cyborg policeman.
Yeah, this is under the background character information.
Yes, during the 2022. Oh, never mind. Jokes.
You just not know the year?
The 2222? Like what?
Yeah, like 2251. Great cop crackdown on cyborg policemen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He only escaped scrutiny and removal out of just gross incompetence. They didn't think he was.
He was basically
like, he's probably a regular guy.
The entire
basically,
force was after him, but he was just Mr. Magooing his way through inspection.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's how Inspector Gadget lived to be the lone,
the sole remaining
last cyborg
policeman. There are no cyborg policewomen.
Yeah.
The future ended up going in a weird direction. It kind of
cyborgs
didn't really
and more
progress
sexism.
all the right direction.
Yeah, it's weird. Shouldn't he be a cyborg police officer?
Yeah.
Oh, you think that in 2251 that they're going to be more politically correct?
Well, it's the correct term now is police officer. That Wikipedia page has some. I mean, he's a man, I guess.
He is a man, but come on. I mean, he's police officer is a police officer, regardless.
Cyborg cop.
Sex.
Video games.
It was the laugh of somebody who's very pleased they just did something horrible.
Yeah, you had a mouthful of water.
Like subjugated a Banana Republic.
Like what?
I didn't say anything.
Shopping at Banana Republic?
Subjugated an actual Banana Republic, like as in a real country. Like if you were at a cocktail party.
Isn't it weird, by the way, that a fucking upscale clothing chain is named after like the derogatory term for corrupt third world country?
It is strange.
That's kind of fucked up, I think.
It's just one of those things where it's like when things something gets into common parlance. And then it's like, do you know what that actually means? It's like, you know the worst example of this, and I'm going to put this on the podcast as a PSA, is the fucking drink called the Irish car bomb. Oh yeah,
that's the most insulting.
Like, my mom is like, she'll be livid if she hears about it. She's like, when I was 15, Nelson's pillar blew up. And I was down the block, so fuck you. Like she hates it.
Yeah, it's fucked up. That's like calling a drink the Twin Towers explosion.
Yeah,
like
or
that's what it is.
The Palestinian package or something.
Exactly right.
One United 93, like basically.
Right, exactly. Like it's I don't understand, but that one, like the Irish car bomb one, is like completely accepted.
Yep. Yeah. I think that I don't think the violence in Ireland, especially through the 50s and 60s and 70s, for our generation, people like 35 and younger, really resonates. Because by the time we were in high, like the Clinton administration sort of like really put a nice bow on that entire conflict, and there hasn't been much of anything since. And we don't need to talk about this on a podcast of why that's the case, but I actually do think about that sometimes.
Yeah, you're right, but people should not only be sensitive about the things that have directly affected their own lives. Like,
of course not. No. I'm just trying to
have some perspective
think
about what
logically why people may be.
No.
When my mom and I, so I was in Dublin with my mom like 3 years ago now, I guess 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I guess, and we were in a bar. We were there for my grandmother's funeral, and it was like 2 nights before the funeral. It was like the night after the funeral, and we were just bummed out, so we went like, let's go get loaded. So we went to this like little bar that my mom used to go to when she was a teenager.
And your mom is Irish, it's worth.
Yeah. My mom is from Dublin. I was actually born in Cork, and I moved here when I was little. But so we go down to this bar, and we sit down, and on like a bench, and there's a package, it's kind of like your like messenger bag, but more tattered, sitting there, and there's a guy sitting. Like probably we're 4 feet from him, and it's equidistant between the two of us.
Mm-hmm. Where are you? Where is this?
We're at a bar.
Okay.
And I go up and get 2 beers. I come down, I put one next to my mom, sit down next to my mom, and she looks over and she sees this like bag, and she just sort of like pushes it like gonna get this like 4 more inches away from me.
Right.
And the guy sees her do it, and he's like, don't fucking push that at me, and pushes it over to her. She's like, that could be a bomb. And he's like, it's 4 inches. And they have this weird push back and forth, and then we ended up drinking with him till 3 a.m. But like, they still joke about that stuff in a very like an unattended package in a bar. My mom was just like, she doesn't like to have her back to doors, especially in restaurants or bars or anything like that. She just like wants to know how to get out.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was an annoying thing that my mom did when I was 14. But now I'm an adult and smart and have empathy. And I'm like, oh my God, like, of course.
Yeah.
When you're in a bar and then a car bomb goes off 2 blocks away and everybody just goes home crying, like, it's like when you grow up that way, how do you ever go into a place and just not get a tinge of that feeling, I guess, if there's a lot of people around, Yeah. So don't order Irish car bombs.
Yeah. Bullshit.
Video games.
Did we ever talk about Driver San Francisco?
I guess not.
I don't think we did.
We did. Well, you had played it when you
had you actually
before
played
you
it?
went to Boston. You had played like a demo of it. We had tested.
Like years ago.
We talked about it on Rolling with the Pope.
Yeah.
Classic episode.
Yeah, but no, then I played it before I came back to San Francisco when it was actually out. And you
Did
played
it
it.
make you nostalgic for San Francisco?
Well, that's why I played it. It was so funny. When I was in Boston, I clearly knew I was coming back here. That's like, it was obviously...
At one point in your life.
Yeah, it was obviously something that I eventually realized, okay, it's time to go back to San Francisco, because I realized over the course of several months, I had made my Twitter background the skyline of San Francisco. I had made my phone the Bay Bridge, Like I started realizing all of these like Sanford like
you became a big homer.
I was following the Castro Theater on Twitter. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why am I not there?
Only eat
why
sourdough?
am I not in that place? Like, it was really funny. I started. It wasn't deliberate until I suddenly realized I had this like, and also I would like. I watched that shitty show Trauma, which came out when I was. It's horrible, but it came out when I was in Boston, and I watched all the fucking episodes because it's set in San Francisco.
Oof.
It's like
just watched
a shitty, like, emergency response drama. You know, like it's fictional. It's
right.
totally, but it's like really trashy. Like it's not a good show. But I watched every episode of it because it was actually shot. It was not just set in San Francisco. It was actually shot in San Francisco, which is fairly unusual.
A weekly screening. I started watching, and then Bullet, and then
I started watching Monk, which I thought was kind of lame, but I watched like 10 episodes of it because I'm just
waiting for the next show. Oh, yeah. Please go there. Come on. We know you watched.
What? Are you thinking of something in particular?
Yeah.
What?
You downloaded like 15 seasons of Full House.
Oh no, I didn't do that. No. Man. Yeah, that didn't even occur to me.
What? Move back to Boston, watch all Full House.
Yeah. Back to Boston.
Yeah. But one of the other things I did was play Driver San Francisco.
Did it make you feel like watching Full House? Which I was kind of interested in because we had talked about it before and it was so bonkers, obviously, in every respect, but also because it was in San Francisco. The game is bonkers.
Yeah.
The thing about Driver San Francisco, though, Sean and I, we were playing it, and our number one takeaway from it was this is the least evocative of San Francisco of anything in the world.
Because like when you sit down, especially when you live in the city and you like... I drive here all the time.
Taxi is more evocative of San Francisco than Driver San Francisco.
It is. A giant cartoon like Taco Bell and Crazy Taxi.
Yeah, Crazy Taxi at least like gets the geography feeling.
Like a weird,
Anyway.
Jumping off of a downhill. Yeah, it too flat, too compact, too orange.
The streets are really wide.
The streets are way too wide. I mean, did you feel like the game was... It had to mortgage its San Francisco-ness to be a decent driving game?
Well, yes. I mean, I think that's inevitable. That's because you couldn't make really skinny streets in a game like that. It wouldn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. But it's funny to hear you guys say that because you're right, obviously. But I didn't even feel that very strongly because it was just like
you got in your taste.
It's like when when you get the fucking. Someone gives you like the butt of the cigarette you find on the fucking you find the butt of the cigarette on the ground. It's like, oh god. like that's kind of what it felt like. So
you're getting San Francisco like dregs, like Driver San Francisco. It says San Francisco in the name.
Recognize
the guy who's
the
pulling the yesterday's coffee grounds out of the
filter and like yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, it was pretty gross.
Yeah.
God, you said the most hilarious thing that you never explained it to me what the hell you meant by this. You said Driver San Francisco feels to me like a driving game set in the universe of Silent Scope.
It does!
What does that mean? What is the universe of Silent Scope?
It's amazing.
You know Silent Scope, right?
And you know what?
Wasn't that just a light gun game?
Yeah.
Yeah, but Crazy Taxi is sort of is on the edge of this family. It's amazing that like there's a generation of arcade games that I don't know how to. I could write a paper on this, and maybe I will because I think about it a lot. That are almost like a Time Crisis is in there that have this aesthetic.
Weird like crispness.
It's a crispness that is almost aesthetically devoid, and in its devoidness, it has aesthetic.
I feel like that is actually Driver San Francisco isn't this, but I think it ends up feeling like it.
Right.
I think that is partially when Japanese developers make this like kind of stylized Hollywood thing that they try. Yeah.
And which is crazy because this was made like Ubisoft Montreal made it.
Was it Montreal or was it actually a French game?
I don't know.
I'm going to look it up.
I'm almost positive it was probably. I bet you it was Montreal. Because where else would it have been done?
One of their French studios.
But it wasn't Montpellier.
Maybe it was.
No, because they did like From Dust and some Rayman stuff.
All right, whatever.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it's a Ubisoft game.
Yeah, a bunch of Quebec people made it.
No, it was Reflections.
Oh.
Because they're the driver studio. They make all the driver games.
And they're in England, aren't they?
I think they are actually. Yes,
Yeah.
I think they are English. So that still kind of applies. Like they're on a different continent. Doesn't really apply.
That's true.
Doesn't really apply.
North England, Japan.
Driver San Francisco felt like it had that aesthetic, which was really weird. Where everything, it's very crisp, very bright, but like also really sort of flat. It's really a weird.
It's really, I don't know how to describe it because.
But yeah, it does feel like you're in the car, but then really, if the game just hopped over and you were a guy like sort of badly crouch walking with a bunch of guys popping out from stuff and you're light gunning them, it would have. Yeah. You're like, oh, that's
had it modally snapped into Time Crisis, I would have been yeah.
And it's funny because I never thought of it this way. I just thought of it as kind of just lame dialogue. But there's lines in that game that sound like they're basically from Resident Evil or something. Yeah. Something like that. Like there's a moment where you figure out you can do the crazy thing where you like jump out of your own brain and like into or jump out of your body into someone else's brain.
Whoa, what's happening here?
Yeah, exactly. His line. Okay, no. It's even more than that. Yeah. It's with this new thing I can do. I've got the keys to the city. Like that's just a Resident Evil line. That's like you're now the master of unlocking. Also, keys are involved in that.
Wesker?
Like it's just right. Like it really is that weird level of like. It's like they translated it to another language and then back to English or something. Like, but obviously it's not the case.
It's funny because the early Resident Evil games sort of are again on the edge of this sort of crisp, arcadey Japanese aesthetic. Yeah. But they have clearly horror film style influence.
Yeah.
And I would argue that like other than in like character face models, which still have been holding on to that like tooth and like just by their fingertips.
Yeah.
4 and 5 have stylistically differentiated themselves from this aesthetic that we're discussing right now.
Oh yeah, although the dialogue I think hangs on to that.
Oh, of course,
for sure.
Yeah.
The characters' faces and things which come out of those faces are pretty traditional.
Still like lodged firmly in.
And it's also there's something about like the lighting models that tend to be used by Japanese developers that give them that very like not flat but like crisp is the right way to put it. Right. Like the things look very sterile kind of.
Did you ever play Skate? The Skate series?
Yeah, I did. That game was great.
I love those games a lot. And I just wanted Driver San Francisco to look and feel like Skate.
Well, you know what's funny is the soundtrack was badass. And that soundtrack should have accompanied a game that had that like solidity to it.
Right.
You know, like I mean it was an amazing, awesome Motown soundtrack, but it was also just set in like 2009 or whatever. Like what? Like, I don't know.
And
why wasn't that game a crazy 70s game?
And I wonder if this is because... Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, I guess...
You want it to just be Driver Streets of San Francisco, basically?
Why wasn't it?
Well, no, just like Bullet. Like, I mean, the game is inspired by Bullet, right? So
right, so why not set it in that era? Like, it's video games. It's
maybe they wanted cool new cars.
I guess they do, and I guess you license... I bet it's because
they're licensed cars in it.
That, and also they're just stupidly locked into... their meaningless like saga of Tanner. Like the guy's name is Tanner, I think. And
I also just don't think that guy ever needs a name. Like I don't know.
Well, there's so many
choices in that game that boggle my mind.
Yeah, it's
boggle my mind.
Oh, actually, one thing I want to say. We can get back to this later because I don't want to derail the driver discussion permanently for this. But speaking of that, like Japanese aesthetic that you bring up, you're so spot on about that. And did you play Dark Souls?
No. But I really no. I didn't play it.
Okay, so the like D * Soul games are like they're so fucking brilliant on so many. I say they. I haven't actually played Dark Souls yet. I'm waiting for the PC version. But Demon Souls was amazing. Like I played that a lot. And
Steve was really into that game, right?
I think Steve. I forget. Steve at one point
somebody
liked it.
Sold me hard on that game, and I still really like. I like the idea of that game.
Maybe he started out not liking it and then liked it, or was it the other way around? I don't remember. I shouldn't speak for Steve. But anyway, so I think those games are. I think at least the one I've played is brilliant, and I've heard the other is as well. And part of it is because I feel like it's one of a rare example of recent Japanese games that have used that aesthetic to amazing end. Instead of just using it because it's what the studio is accustomed to doing, it really feels like the game itself, the world is that. It's this stark world where things are everything that you do. I mean, people have said this a million times about these games. I'm not someone making this observation newly, but like it is one of those games where it's so precise and like when you die, it's because, you fucked it up. Like it's really hard, but it's only hard because it's unforgiving, not because it's unfair.
Right.
Most of the time anyway. And there's something about the overall world that is so muted. It is so not about spectacle. Even though even though there are crazy things that happen, it is so much not about wowing you through extraneous means. It is entirely about just putting you in this world, putting you in this system with complete integrity. And I feel like that aesthetic actually maps to that really well because it isn't trying to be the crazy stylized Hollywood thing and failing. Like it really feels completely correct. And I think it's brilliant. I think it's like, I'm kind of in awe, and I don't know.
Just to see that aesthetic that it makes me, it just flips me sideways every time I engage it. Like, I feel so distant from this.
But they're not modeling the same thing. Like it's got that like that rendering style, but they're not modeling the same. They're not modeling helicopters and shit like in all those games. You know what I mean? Like it's
the souls of demons are being modeled.
It's just interesting. And fantasy games don't usually look like that. Fantasy games usually either look just totally dark as shit or they look really lush. And Demon Souls and Dark Souls are neither of those. It's muted. It's like a lot of that shit looks like what you imagine the actual medieval world looked like, which was just muted. You know, like things just tamped down. You know, just kind of humanity being repressed. You know, not even necessarily by like a despot or whatever, even though that's possible, but just by the era in which they're living and just by the atmosphere that exists. And like that's how Demon Souls feels to me. And I think it's incredible. I think it's amazing.
Well, it's a Japanese game. It's funny, like it's like a distant pull, but Final Fantasy VII has a very muted feel all the way through it. And it starts in this factory. You go out into when you're in the fields and things like that, that's very different. But I feel like the towns are all very muted. And then like this is a Japanese aesthetic where it is muted but I mean, that is so Japanese, that game. So it's kind of like a bad example to connect back to this aesthetic that we're talking about. But
well, that's not,
I do feel like
make it a bad example.
I do feel like Square RPGs at like in the year like 2001 or 2000, whenever 99, whenever Final Fantasy X came out, it was just lush colors.
Absolutely.
Explosion, and they never came back.
As they basically got to the point where they could start to sort of approximate what their cutscenes look like.
We can put a plant in this world that isn't
but
like
even the cutscenes in Final Fantasy VII weren't incredibly like vibrant in color. They were. I thought they were.
True.
I thought those.
Although in Final Fantasy VIII they were, as I recall.
Yeah, they were. But even then, if you look, it's one more step. There was a little less blue in Final Fantasy VIII than there was in 9, and then by 10 it was all colors of the rainbow.
Yeah,
you know,
that's true.
I always thought the color in Final Fantasy VII for a PlayStation 1 game was always like really nice.
That's an interesting observation. Yeah,
I always liked the color in that game.
Yeah,
but
anyway, Driver.
So you probably mechanically liked it more than Sean did, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
I wasn't a big fan of it mechanically. I didn't like jumping around through cars. That was really.
I was into it, but it felt weird. It felt like It felt like an extension of the just kind of lack of identity of the aesthetic, because it's just like, yeah, whatever, jump around, like boo boo.
I think just sorry to back up half a second and talk about the aesthetic of Driver. Comparing it to Japanese games is fair, but also just Driver San Francisco has the aesthetic of an arcade game.
Yeah,
it totally does. Absolutely.
But the jumping around mechanic and the weird cinematics that come in are very much not that. They're very much the mechanics of the mechanics and sort of storytelling of a home console game.
Yeah,
and that is a weird. It is a weird two things to mash up.
That's true. That's true. That's a good point.
And I'm not saying I don't know what that means necessarily, but it was funky to be like you're playing a game that looks and handles like you should be playing it with a wheel and with a pedal, and then all of a sudden, like, a weird normal map dude is like, hey, I'm your partner now. What the hell? What? No, I just put a quarter in you and I'm driving you around.
Right.
And then you fly up to the crazy real-time world map. I'm like, what the it makes me wish, they'd either tighten that up into something very specific that felt more like the theme, or just gone... F this, like, go weird, like, grasshopper manufacturer with it, or whatever, or Clover, and just say, okay, this game, we're just gonna, there's 6 games inside of this game, enjoy all of them now.
Right, well, this is quite possibly the most pervasive trope in all of Idle Thumbs, but Driver San Francisco is just one more fucking notch on the, like, just one more tick on the wall of games that systemically reveal your character to be the most incredible asshole who has ever lived in the history of the universe that is contained in his game. Like, nobody in the one thing we didn't mention about Max Payne last week on this topic that I want to mention that I didn't, is there's a moment in Max Payne 3 where you can turn on TVs when they are in rooms, and most of the time they're like goofy things like they were in Max Payne 1 and 2. But, sometimes they're newscasts about you, and like or about just things in the game. Like
not all about you.
Usually about usually about stuff that's related to what you're doing, but not you yourself. But then at one point, one is about like a former bodyguard was being pursued in relation to this crazy thing that happened, and Max Payne's like, ugh, all the shit going on, and this is what the news is about, like implying sensationalist reporters, like, you know, ignoring the real story. No, you fucking crazy fuck. You have killed more humans individually than any other person who has ever lived on the planet. Like, you have personally put more bullets in more individual people's brains than anyone who's ever lived, ever. Like, in the world of Max Payne, there can't possibly be another person who's ever lived who's killed more people himself personally, not by an order, but
not Genghis Khan,
right, than Max Payne. If Max Payne was a real guy, he would be the subject of every single local and national and international and global newscast, newspaper, internet site,
for a decade,
tweet, for as long as he was alive.
Right,
like he would never stop being. Could you even imagine if this was something that existed in the world? If there was a single man who evaded capture and imprisonment and trial of any kind
while murdering 700 people or whatever?
Yeah, like a day. I mean, can you even imagine?
And then, we're looking back and we've discovered that at 2 previous times in this man's life, this has happened.
Yeah, exactly. Like the fact that he can even show his face in an urban environment is like just outrageous. The fact that anybody doesn't immediately know everything about his life and face and location at all times is completely implausible. And the notion that he
looked different before, so they don't recognize him.
That's true, yeah.
He kept that one face on the first time.
Bearded guy. Yeah, nobody knows who the hell that is.
The first time around, the crazy man.
Until that version of him kills his first 500 in the first hour. Like, I mean, it's just, there's just
Max Payne is back. How do you know? 500 bodies were found in Rio.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like, it's, and you know, that's what most video games are. So like, you know, you don't
but Max Payne gives me like, this bullshit on the news. Yeah. Like, no. That's not bullshit.
Fucking balls to act as if that is in any way out of the ordinary or like in any way unfair.
Well, maybe in Max Payne's universe, the Earth is actually like 30 times it has 30 times the surface area, and just humanity is we've massively overpopulated.
It's
just the size of Saturn.
Yeah, so like the notion of just going and just popping 500 people in the head,
it's considered a service.
We've got so many more to spare on this giant version of planet Earth on which Max Payne lives.
And it's a hilarious point. Yeah, that is a really.
Well, why would they write it being like, why do they care about me? Like,
like, as he's saying that,
right? But it's surely, at least if he had done that, if he had said that remark and then like stopped, like perfect dramatic beat, mowed down 3 guys who were about to run into the room, and then flipped off the TV.
Well, that would have been the best if it was one of those an audio log. This game doesn't have those, but if it was an audio log that you can pick up and listen to as you're playing the game,
right?
So you like pick it up and you get the newsreel playing in your head as you are just laying waste.
Right, but then like as the last shell drops out of the side of your gun, he's like, what a waste. And turns it off. Like then at least like
symbolism.
At least he would know. But he doesn't know. He's an asshole.
Yeah. That was a good line though. What a waste. He just wasted 500 people.
I'm writing Max Payne 4, if you guys didn't know. I'm actually taking over for that entire studio, which was closed after the game shipped.
Yeah, Jesus.
Ugh. How fucked. Games
sucks. Yep. So bad.
So the reason I cut to that from Driver is because Driver is just the vehicular version of that guy.
Right.
Like it's fucked up. And you're an active police officer in this game. You're not even a former one, which is pretty thin.
You're not even a former police officer. You're an active service.
Corrupt, murdering former police officer.
The first thing he says, I took notes on this because it was so hilarious to me. Like, maybe I didn't write this down, but like you probably remember when you get this, his whole deal is like, I can help people. I can help the citizens of San Francisco. Right. Like this is my chance to like do these missions for people and help out.
So you zap into their bodies and fly their cars off bridges and use them as weapons.
So that's like sort of what you can do, but what the game demands you do. There's a mission that is terrorize driving instructor. So you go into like you go to this thing and you just ruin this guy's life And then you get a message that says, complete, driving instructor terrorized. You are a terrorist. The game is asking you to terrorize people.
Nick Brecken's ears is perked up, and he's like, oh, I could Dr. Spatzo that driving instructor.
Like, there is shit. There is, okay. You possess, okay, I took a list of things you do as a police officer trying to help people. You deliberately, at the game's explicit instruction, possess people simply to get video of stunts, including deliberately causing head-on collisions from people who had no awareness they were taking part in a filmed stunt. Helping criminals escape the police, destroying innocent people's driving records and vehicles and lives. You're a corrupt asshole ghost cop. Like, I'm gonna help people. Like, that's your fucking refrain. It's crazy. It's nuts. You get into a taxi cab. The passenger is like, all right, I need to get to the ferry building. Immediately, it's a strap in, asshole, time to ram some cops. Like, that's everything in this game. I don't know, like, what did they think? I don't understand.
So what do you do? What do you make the missions more, like, nicer, or do you make
can't.
or
most
do
of
you
them
just,
are,
or should the theme of the game just be about being horrible?
I don't know.
Driver, mischievous ghost.
I don't even know. I still don't actually even know, like, what the twist of the game. Like, I still don't even know how much of this is actually in a dream and how much of it's real, or if any of it's real or in a, like. Right. I don't even know. Right. Like, I suppose the response to this is probably, oh well, it's all in his head. Which, fine. That doesn't get away from the fact that he is consciously choosing to do these things. Like,
while telling himself all the good I can do. That's the whole, it's that dissonance. Yeah. And I mean, the game is just sort of dissonant completely to me. And I have a really hard time playing games that are that dissonant. Yeah. It's really difficult for me. Like, I don't, it's hard because I want to be able to find the sort of, like, popcorn entertainment of it, but I can't get beyond it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard.
The game,
it's getting increasingly difficult for me.
The mechanic of that game is, like, it just seems so, like, 12-year-old boy power fantasy. What if you could drive every car in the city? Well, power wheels.
I think how is that different from wanting to be Batman, though? Like you were saying before.
Hold on, like, it doesn't. That wasn't on a podcast. That was on a post podcast. Also, but the thing is it doesn't. The whole game is just about that, but then they build all this other stuff around it about this guy's story, his villain, all these people you're going to help, all these things you're going to do, in a way to shroud it from just make it what it is.
It was just Crazy Taxi, but, like, if it was the equivalent of Crazy Taxi with this mechanic instead of the Crazy Taxi mechanic, yeah, it would be a lot more successful as a game.
Right. I think just make it that and you're chasing down bad guys.
I mean, I don't know if it would be more commercially successful.
I think what it actually came from, though, is from GTA, right? Obviously, this game is... We want an open world GTA type car game, but we don't want to have any aspect of it that is a third person guy running around on the street. What if you could just go pop up to the map and click on a car? Like, that's exactly what, like,
right. I mean, that's not as
in the GTA games. You're a car thief, so But
I see. I never thought about it that way.
It's sure. Like, they wanted the sort of open world feel all these different car things, but they wanted to keep it inside of the mechanical structure of a driver game. I'm not saying that to defend the game, but I think that's probably more likely where it came from.
I've actually never played a driver game before this one, but didn't they introduce walking around in Driver 3 and, like, it was a big fiasco?
I don't know.
Like, wasn't that? Remember when Driver 3 came out, Jake, in, like, 2004? Like, remember when Driv 3er was like.
Right, that was the game that rumored / actually people were paid off to rate well or whatever. Was that?
Yeah, which game? We don't know if that's. I don't remember if that's. I don't remember if that was true or not. But, like, I remember
was in 2004, which was the era of take all of your arcade games and then make sure that they have an open world.
Yeah.
Driver 3 and, like, SSX 3, and I think around then Burnout probably started doing that sort of stuff. But anyway. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, I'm just don't spend the effort theming your game with character and story if it's not what your game is about.
Yeah.
That's just kind of how I feel.
Yeah. But what's funny is that this surely started not as let's make a crazy arcade game where you jump out of a car. It started as we need to revitalize the Driver franchise. And so, like, if you're starting from that point, your hands are tied. Like, what are you going to do? You've got to make a game about Tanner and the Jericho saga, a thing that how many people in the world could possibly be interested in?
Who are those guys? Oh, they're the guys in the game?
Tanner is the character.
Which one are you?
You're Tanner, I think. Which the reason I know that is because it's the douchiest name.
Oh, no, because you're in San Francisco. setting a full house, the Tanners.
Yes.
Duh.
Of course. How did I not realize?
That's how I should have figured that out.
Yeah. What? You seem excited.
It's maybe Driver San Francisco somehow part of the Full House continuity.
Oh, well, that's definitely true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it is different to me than Batman in that my fandom of Batman is founded upon a bunch of stories that I think actually are pretty good and are equal parts entertaining and thoughtful and written by people who I like, and have big Q quality to them.
So it's sort of quality by association.
Yeah, and I look at, and when I play Arkham City or Arkham Asylum, I absolutely compare the story, the narrative of those games and the dialogue to something like The Dark Knight Returns or any of Darwin Cook did a book called Ego, and it pales in comparison. It bums me out. But I'm willing to just say, man, systemically, I do feel like Batman.
Yeah.
So I'll check that box. But I don't.
Sure.
Those games, I don't rave review those games. But I do have fun playing them.
Sure.
I would sit in this chair and say, "Oh my God, you have to play the new Arkham game." If those things came together, if the systemic feeling of they've nailed what it feels like to be Batman.
Yeah.
So now, could you bring in the stuff I like about Batman that isn't the power fantasy stuff?
Well, that's tough because what are the mechanics for that? You know what I mean? Like, I think
absolutely.
that's a thing to be solved that no one has really solved yet.
Right. I think you don't have any. I mean, can't do this again. Just going to point to another game, the game about you have a weakness.
The game,
and it stops you from doing things sometimes. Yeah. That's all it takes, I think.
I don't think it's all it takes.
Batman hilariously is sick in Arkham City. Batman gets poisoned with you get knocked out in a really weird way. But Joker gives you a blood transfusion.
Yeah.
And he gives you his illness, but that mechanically doesn't play into the game at all.
Right.
It's really I think it's a giant failure on this theme and mechanic of Arkham City. It sucks so bad that you get this crazy blood sickness from Joker, and then you just continue to be a badass, and then in a cutscene, just as you're about to capture Freeze, you collapse because you don't feel good.
Right.
I'm like, okay, let me get this straight. I just flew 4 miles.
Yep.
Fought 98 guys.
Yep.
And now I got I'm too tired.
Yeah.
And
video games are full of that shit.
Yeah, it's really. But there are sequences of Batman where you're on you're on hallucinogens and that stuff comes right. The theme mechanic just collide, and that stuff's really nice. Yeah. But I think those games are at their heart failures in a lot of the things that we're talking about now about Driver. But the thing that they set out to do, what does it feel like to be Batman? That is a success.
Secret side note, I'm undeniably excited to hear that the new Batman game is going to be a vintage comics theme.
Silver Age.
Oh, I know, me too.
Yeah,
I don't care about, honestly, I don't really care about Batman at all, but that is just interesting because it's not the same as all the other things. It's just interesting,
Yeah, I totally agree. Do you want to talk more about Driver San Francisco?
I don't know much more there is to say, really. It's a weird game. I probably enjoyed it a lot more than you did. I definitely played it a lot more than you did.
I just couldn't get by the dissonance of the whole thing.
No, I understand. And it's tough because I think we, like you were just saying, there's things to you that are dissonant about Batman, and it's fine because it succeeds at other things that you're in particular looking for.
Right.
And for me, there are things that made me overlook it, in Driver, quite honestly. I mean, this is a really fucking easy, I'm easily snared, I suppose, but the soundtrack was so good that just driving around with it playing, it seriously just it was kind of just listening to good music and then also having a thing to do. You know what I mean? It really went a long way for me. And that, I'm not saying that because I think that makes the game a quality. That doesn't but it just.
It explains why if I open up Steam, it's going to say Chris Remo has played 7.5 hours of Driver.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Precisely. And
Chris Remo has listened to 7.5 hours of sick Motune hits,
right,
while also spinning a car around ramps.
And I don't want to be too much of a dick because if I really was having an unpleasant time, I wouldn't have been doing it.
Right.
I did. There still definitely was a degree to which I really did enjoy just fucking goofing around this city, just being. Having in the ways that it is like an arcade game, having that arcadey experience. And, Jake, you enumerated some of the ways in which it isn't. But
I love arcade racers, though. That's the thing. Is I think a good arcade racer that's devoid of... Yeah. I think are great.
We probably talked about this, but the most tragic thing in the history of console-based racer games is that the Burnout Paradise Moon DLC never got completed.
Oh, God, I know.
The thing where there was like, you just go out over to this place and there's a rocket or whatever that would launch your car to the moon. Oh, yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. That would have put Burnout Paradise into such a
into out of this
another
world.
orbit, just into a completely different place for me. Where that game was already.
The moon, is that the place you're talking about?
It walked that line between being a little bit ridiculous and also just being a racer game. And then when they added the island, that got a little bit more crazy. Then when they were like, "Fuck it, you're racing cars on the moon," yes, this is exactly what I want from everything. Yep. Oh no, just kidding. We're just going to release our base sphere moon model in one screenshot on the internet to show you what you lost.
Yeah,
missed that moon.
Oh, sorry. I just want to point out another thing in Driver. That is a mission. One of the missions is just drive into oncoming traffic for a while. That's a mission. That's a mission that you are assigned.
Had I not already almost
killed
somebody
brain.
on the way here, I would think that was funny.
That's kind of what's fucked up about it, right? Is that this is the cavalier thing to do. Is just gonna drive into some oncoming traffic for a while. I'm a weird ghost man. Who fucking cares if anyone else gets hurt? He never says that.
Don't you embody the person who's still in the car? They don't go away, right?
No. They fucking break their neck.
Oh my God.
I mean, the game doesn't say that, but that's obviously what's happening.
You
leave right before the crash.
Right.
So you leave. These people wake up and then go, ah!
Yeah.
People are just having the weirdest, and then their head gets ripped off.
I didn't mention that part. It was kind of implied, I suppose. But if people don't know how this game works, that's what's going on. Is you are straight up setting these people up to just get fucking wrecked, and then you just ditch.
Well, the setup is you're in a coma, but your brain goes body jumping. Yeah. You jump into people's bodies while they're driving and drive their cars. You possess them. Yeah, and then jump out of their body before the rest.
There's still one who has to deal with
You're a homunculus.
They're going to be the ones who are in traction for 6 months. It's
or dead.
Or dead.
Yeah. Video game.
Yeah.
So
it's weird how irresponsible video games are. It's super weird.
Yeah, that's a sentence that's never been said.
I'm just saying, it's just...
Sure, this is a House subcommittee that's...
They're not talking about it in this way, though, probably.
No.
If Max Payne was real, says the
I don't mean because they make people turn into an actual killer. I'm just saying, the stuff they depict is just usually so little thought goes into that. Should we make a game about a guy who just serially puts people into horrific car accidents? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. But it's I wonder if anyone's.
I think we have talked about this before, but I remember I played the Burnout games to death for the first couple of them, and especially the Crash mode because that was just awesome. But then that game I think it was called Flat Out that came out. That was a PC based game, but that was the game where when the cars get in wrecks, an actual body comes out of them.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
That disturbed the hell out of me. I couldn't deal with it.
It was it was a console game.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that game made me barf.
I mean, it was maybe also on PC as well, but I remember it on console.
Yeah. Once a body comes flying out of a car in a car wreck, it's not as fun anymore. Anyway, reader mail.
This is a good one, and I think it's probably now that the cast is back, it's definitely worth addressing. This particular question from Felipe Boscher, who has a little podcast, an interview podcast that he does that Steve has been on, and it's totally worth checking out. I actually told him he would be on it, Jake, so we should probably do that sometime. Okay. But
now you've committed.
Yeah, it's called Behind the Credits, I think. And Felipe Boscher, Paul Boscher on the forums and on Twitter. Check out his podcast. Hey guys, my question is as follows. You often bemoan the current state of the video game industry. Chris once said that it is when he's feeling down about the state of games, it's GDC that makes him say, "Fuck yeah, video games." That's my best Chris. And though I've never...
Did I actually say that? I guess I probably did at one point.
I think you've probably said the words "fuck yeah" and "video" and "games" before.
Did I say it in that voice?
Close enough. And although I've never been to GDC, I agree with the sentiment. I think it's far more interesting to hear about the people who make games and to actually play the games themselves. A lot of the time, I just get frustrated with games being dumb and stop playing for a few months before something cool comes along and pulls me back in, even though I still listen to the interviews and developers and podcasts and the like during the downtime between those. So why do you guys play/like video games? If you think they're dumb and the better stories experiences are to be found in other media, why do you keep playing? So I think there's actually two questions there. A, why do you actually like video games? And if you think they're dumb, that better stories or experiences are to be found in other media, why do you keep playing? I think we should divorce those two.
Well, there's also, I think, sort of a third thing that isn't a question, but is probably still worth addressing, which is the notion of enjoying learning about the people more than playing the game, which is something that seems odd to me a little bit. Because, I mean, if you only listening to a bunch of podcasts about people making video games and then reading postmortems or whatever, but then not actually playing games, it just seems odd. That just seems odd to me.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really relate too closely to that sentiment.
The other thing that makes it hard, I think, for us to address is we also all work in the video game industry. So, like, learning about people who make games is also just
going to work,
knowing our friends. Yeah, so it's kind of weird in that way. So I'm not sure we're probably not the right people to address that.
No, but I do think, like, there's. I mean, I think there's definitely a real question in there, which is, we are hard on video games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but we have chosen to make them our jobs. Mm-hmm. And build this whole thing around them. Why? And also, if you can find better story experiences elsewhere.
Yeah. Well, those are definitely two very different things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Jake, you had a good response to this the other day.
Just why video games?
Yeah.
Or why are we hard on video games?
No, yeah. Why do you still play?
Despite being hard on video games, like why?
Right.
Why?
I think that we've probably actually talked about this on previous episodes, just sort of when talking about Idle Thumbs in general, or talking about my outlook, and I think I know you guys probably share this as well, which is I just as a medium, video games are really fascinating to me, and they're a thing that I am always really optimistic about, just sort of just as a medium or as a thing that's being created sort of around us as we exist. I think there are things that games offer. Just types of experiences you can get from playing games as just sort of a form, as a creative work that you can't get from other things at all. But that general enthusiasm for games doesn't mean that I just blindly love every game. Like it is, I guess, specifically a specific game will sometimes disappoint me, but that doesn't necessarily hamper my enthusiasm for everything else that exists. Like I don't know. I think we're critical on Idle Thumbs of stuff, but by and large, we talk about the stuff that we love, and then talk about things about it that aren't. Yeah. That aren't. I don't know how to say exactly what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I also think, and this is something this may not even answer the question. This might be a different topic, so you guys can stop me if so. But I think there's also something that, like, a lot of the things we're hard about in video games are, God, it's so common. And it was like the entire podcast today was the kind of disassociative stuff of where, like, theme doesn't meet mechanics, or where even two parts of the theme don't even go together, or where the mechanics just seem oddly chosen. And it really does seem like it's almost impossible to make a game that is coherent in the same way a lot of other creative works are. It's so hard. There's so many things going on. In, like, when you're making a game, like, the number of different interactive systems that are like
video games
sabotaging you all the time is crazy.
I like that slogan for video games, though. Video games, there are so many things going on.
Come visit video games. There's so many things. Paid for by the Video Games Chamber of Commerce.
But when one is close, I feel like we jump all over.
Oh, it gets really exciting. Yeah,
it's super really, exciting. Really thrilling.
But what it does mean is that a game that is good in a lot of ways can still be open to a lot of criticism.
It also means
you can say that about books and movies, though, too. Like,
well, I mean, you can say that in that
you're talking about like
but that's not what I'm talking
about here. Yeah.
No, but I'm saying it's obviously much easier to find a book or a movie that is tonally internally consistent than games. That's just that's clear. Like, I'd be really surprised
if you could not having player mechanics to have to contend with.
That's my point. Else. Yeah, that's exactly what I led by saying. I said games have all. Yeah. Right.
No, I think you're. Yeah, I'm not really holding out for, like, the perfect video game where I can look and say this.
I'm not either. I'm saying someone else why, and I'm saying I think this is why. I'm not saying this as like, and therefore video games are worthless.
It's almost like the lack of that.
Therefore, there's almost always things to have critique about. Like there's it's rare for that not to be the case in a game, even a game that has a lot of good things going for it. And I think one of the things I'm starting to realize, and this is like a really different position than I had in the past, is I think some of the ways you get around that is just like stripping shit out. Like one of the most tonally enjoyable games I played recently was Journey, which is not like a perfect game, obviously. But the thing it picked its battles really well, which is that the story it told was just entirely really kind of basic emotions. You know, like there's not a lot of complexity going on in that game at all, either on the tonal or mechanical level whatsoever. But it bites off what it can chew. Yeah. And it chews it pretty well, in my opinion. Like,
I agree with that completely.
It's a very satisfying arc that happens over that game. And it's entirely exploring abstract things. And it's capable of doing it because it's not trying to be super sophisticated. And it's not trying to tell a concrete story, which I think games are just pretty much bad at, like, for the most part. And so actually, to the other part of this question is when better stories can be found in other media, which is true, I think. Like, I think games don't tell direct narrative stories very well.
Right. Direct is the good word to use there for what it's worth, in my opinion. The indirect narratives of games can be fantastic.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Implied narrative can be wonderful. But like just telling a story about a character who does a bunch of things, whether it's branching or linear or whatever, like they all are usually expressed with the same like moment to moment tools. That stuff it's very rare for that stuff to eclipse things in other media, but you can tell those like core, raw, just kind of sensory stories really, really well. And like when I played Journey, that really hit me. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
And so
there are games that just do what you're saying, like strip it down to what is it exactly about and just make it all about that thing and don't worry about it being a big bombastic.
Yeah, I mean, Team Ico is all about that. That's what
it's funny. I don't know why, but like I'm trying to think of like a nuclear holocaust movie or book that I've read that really sort of like transferred to me how insane nuclear weapons are as buttons and codes are communicated and pressed, and the most devastating violence our people is capable of is done in a faraway place. And like,
is there a game you're thinking of?
DEFCON does that so well.
I assumed
right, but I was trying to think. My question is, I can't think of a movie or a book that put that sort of that empty, hollow, like that sort of lucidity you get from the first time a bomb goes off in DEFCON. It made me a smarter person about nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool, you know what I mean?
And because a book probably would do it from the totally opposite angle.
Right.
The book would tell the human story as opposed to the sort of systemic story, I guess. Right. Like the DEFCON teaches you about like sort of crazy nuclear proliferation and like response and like the like snowball effect of like the crazy monstrous things you can do on a grand scale. A book would teach you about an experience a human has living through, whatever. Like there's an interesting coincidence. There's an episode of Radiolab that came out recently that was about a guy who was one of the only people, like one of maybe 6 people, like total, who was present in Hiroshima when the first bomb went off, and in Nagasaki when the next one did. And oh god, or is it the other way around? I'm horrible. I can't remember.
It's Hiroshima first. Maybe I always get it wrong too. Shit.
Yeah, but I mean, and that's the kind of thing that I think a game would really struggle with really conveying in a convincing way. Whereas the systemic side of things is one that those other media would in turn really, I think, struggle with in a convincing way.
I thought that it was like to talk about DEFCON just. And as far as being a singular person, it's funny, my play experience for that game was I am a person who's receiving orders to do these things, and I absolutely don't want to do them, but I'm going to be going through with it. Like DEFCON to me is still like, anyway, what were you going to say?
Well, I'm just going to say, but you didn't have the experience that an actual real person did when he refused, like that Russian guy who actually refused the orders to launch the nuclear weapons.
But on the screen, you don't have, that's the thing about direct narrative. You're talking about direct narrative. You're talking about, he did not directly on the screen experience that because that's not what the game is about. But there is an implied, the game is aware enough to have that implied narrative throughout it, even in just the ambient sound of like you can hear breathing and people and things.
Sure.
And I think, and honestly, for me, that's enough, and that is like a very, very small example of why I like games.
Yeah, I guess for me, DEFCON
so
made me think about people on both sides.
And like last night, you made a good comment
of that button
about like
that's all.
When games don't try to be movies, where they can stretch their legs a little bit and do some of the things that are really exciting to us.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny to be hitting that in practice, I guess, because like we're working on The Walking Dead, which is an incredibly cinematic game, but then I'll just I just watch a lot of TV on Netflix. Well, at the same time, I'm helping direct episodes of The Walking Dead, and
hopefully, literally at the same time.
No, I'm at home. I go home.
Somebody comes to Jake's desk and he's like, "Yeah, no,
hold up,
I'm sorry, I'm in third season of Mad Men right now."
Yeah.
Hold on.
It's
shit, they're starting a new. Oh,
sorry, you're gonna have to come back tomorrow.
Yeah, this is way too intense.
It is just. It's always depressing to me to watch. Just in like, I don't know. I've been watching Veronica Mars recently, but like just a directorial choice that they'll make where they'll just have a scene transition and the camera will start in an interesting place and land in another interesting place as characters walk by and talking. And I'm like, that guy just did that in his sleep, and no one in the games industry would ever put that into their cinematic sequence. And that's just like a CW teenage crime fighting procedural.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry that's like a very specific, stupid example, but just like we as an industry try to use all these tools, but we don't actually know what we're doing.
No.
And I mean, I think
if you
the
look
next
at
point though
BioWare
is like, I think if we did know, we would like. I feel like if there was,
if suddenly a bunch of like DPs from films started
like
working
if,
in games,
what's his nose who does all of the Coen Brothers stuff? What's that guy's name?
Deakins.
Yeah, Roger Deakins came and hung out with our choreography team and just was the director and choreography lead of an episode of The Walking Dead. It would still have the same.
There'd be a false note about it.
It would. I mean, I think even the perfect version of that of cinematic tools gets away from the point that I think is valid, which is when games would just turn 90 degrees away or 180 degrees away from film. I guess I'm going to do my own.
But Jake is saying in a situation where you still are using a camera, like
right.
I mean,
I guess what I was sort of trying to get to is these are things. Well, maybe it's not what I was saying specifically, but it's sort of what I was thinking in the back of my mind but wasn't articulating, is a TV show like Veronica Mars can get away with these moments because they're natural to that medium. That's just like, that's how you do that stuff. And in games, we're taking this tool set and process and things that a game does, and then pushing as far as we can, sort of stretching this tether to get as close as we possibly can to that stuff. But you're always bending the medium to your will to do a thing that it wasn't necessarily meant to do. I don't know. Like, I also don't mean to say that in a way that like poops on my own game, because I think some of the stuff people are doing in The Walking Dead is really cool and I'm very proud of that game. But like, it is funny to just watch, like, you guys just made that choice in your sleep, and it's because your medium is built specifically to do the thing that you're doing right now. Whereas for us, that stuff is like pulling teeth.
Rather, those things were discovered over time. Like, I don't mean literally it was built to do it, but like at this point, that it's institutional knowledge. Whereas you look at like BioWare is such a standout frustration for me in this respect, because all of their cutscenes at this point have just like this generic hit, like camera pan from here to here, camera zoom slowly here, camera pan up to down here. It's just like it's taking all these things that are actually really well understood, potentially very emotionally powerful cinematic tools, and just kind of shuffling them and just taking all of the power out of them.
So much goddamn content.
I know, exactly, but that demonstrates why those things are not compatible.
Exactly.
I mean, they're compatible in the sense that they get the job done, but no more than that. Like that's.
Right.
That's
I agree.
I think a BioWare game that uses that stuff, like if someone really wanted to make that game prohibitively expensive to produce, you could go in and figure out to some degree systemically how to apply particular camera moves, particular framing choices to moments. I'm not saying
they probably do that sparingly to some degree. I'm sure a lot of that stuff is bespoke.
The stuff that they do is probably hand placed, though. The ones that actually have any meaning or specificity.
That's what I mean. I'm sure. When I say bespoke, I mean like
handmade. Yeah.
I was trying to say that like if you could probably come up with some way to systemize some of the language of visual storytelling in your game, but it would be an insane, effectively academic undertaking, and I don't know what it would be.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway.
We like games, Philippe.
Yeah. I don't think we would spend as much time talking about them as we do
in a non-air conditioned studio.
If we had anything other than liking them.
And also, I mean, hopes and aspirations, and sort of, we still get excited when we see the glimmer of the stuff that we.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you hear us get as. Hopefully, when you hear us get excited, you know that it's absolutely sincere.
Yeah. For me, Idle Thumbs has always been about excitement about the possibility of video games and sort of the possibility of both of a specific game, but more actually of just video games as a thing. And yeah, sometimes a game comes out that either you are excited about or that you just are presented with, and it does things that are frustrating. But the medium as a whole, I think just the potential and its uniqueness is completely fascinating, and is why we do all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Join the Lord's Consortium.
I should join
It's
the consortium.
great. It has sweet cinematics.
Man.
If you were going to play a game, it shouldn't be Dota. I mean, it can be if you want to play. If you actually want to play Dota, please play Dota. But don't play it just.
No, there's a couple things that I really want to check out. And also, hilariously, one of the things that I actually really want to check out, just because I'm curious technically, is Source Filmmaker.
Oh, yeah. You said you were going to check that out. Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, hopefully I can look at that and can talk about it.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
To talk about making content that we just had a fun time discussing.
Cool.
I'm going to Wyoming now.
Oh,
Have fun
bye, Sean.
doing that.
Go to Wyoming.
See you, Sean.
Drink some Irish car bombs on the way. Bye.
Anyway, bye.
Video games.
Aren't we recording?
Yeah, but this is mic test. The window's open. This isn't legit. You gotta.
You
sucked,
got
actually.
to.
You got to.
Somebody. Oh, I'm just gonna tell my. It's not gonna be on the podcast.
What?
Somebody hit a pigeon next to me.
This is clearly a good podcast.
Three cars in front of me, zooming down Goth.
Yeah.
Somebody hit a pigeon. It exploded into
What?
a bomb of feathers.
Oh, my God.
Feathers went everywhere. I went, oh shit. Looked back to my left and was about to tear through an intersection, slammed on my brakes, ended up in the crosswalk, and almost hit a woman whose hand came down the hood of my car.
Holy shit.
Fucking terrifying.
So now you're amped up, and this is going to be an amazing pod. Now you've got that adrenaline.
Yes. It was so long ago now. It was like half an hour, 45 minutes ago.
Can't even remember her face.
Oh, no, I can. She was angry. And actually, the thing that really pisses me off is the guy crossing the street the other way who just mad dogged me the whole time. Like, you could have killed her. I know that. I'm a human being. I gave her the like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And then I'm like, there was a pigeon. Like I was doing like an explosion of feathers with my hands.
Miming exploding pigeons.
She was like, Are you just like miming what would happen to my
body?
when my head bashed onto the hood of your car, then bounced onto the street?
Horrible. Oh, God.
Where she's looking over and you're like,
blood just dripping down my face. I reach into my glove compartment, pull out a spray bottle full of red blood, and spray it into my eyes.
On the
This is
windshield
what
of the
the
car.
pigeon was like.
I saw a pigeon die earlier.
But the guy who's mad dogging me, I'm just like, I wanted to get out and say, hey man, so like, a day is gonna come where you're gonna make a really like tragic mistake, but you're gonna prevent it, and you're gonna feel like a real asshole that it could have happened, but it didn't. And
on that day, I'm going to come yell at you in your car.
just like, you don't need some like some holier than thou douche walking across the street.
Yeah, no, I know.
You know what I mean?
You already feel bad about the thing. It
And
wasn't
he's just like,
it was a thing you wished wouldn't have happened.
How do they even let you drive?
Yeah.
Like,
No, that's true. I mean,
I just
that's
wish right in that moment I could just download a complete personal history of that one guy and be like, oh, well, cheated on your wife in 1994. What do you know about that?
Well, you say that and then just go,
It just bothers me. I don't know. I feel really bad about it. That lady's going to be... She's home right now. She's probably crying. Her husband's holding her. She's like, no, she's home alone. Her cat...
This crazy guy almost hit me, which wasn't really that big a deal. But then he started giving me the weirdest signals. Oh, I'm really frightened.
Like my head...
perturbed.
He asked,
like my head
he asked
was
for my information for
exploding.
insurance. I didn't want to get anywhere near him.
It sucked.
Also, a pigeon got hit earlier. That was crazy. I was distracted by that exploding bird, and then I can understand why that guy almost killed me. That bird was fucked up. Anyway, he was going to blow up my face. What a day.
I felt apologetic, and then I felt like I had to like get out, like, because that guy made me feel like I had to get out of my car and explain myself. It's like, look, there was a pigeon, it exploded, fucking crazy. There's cars everywhere, and I hit the brakes, didn't kill the woman. My brakes worked, my tires worked, everything worked. Everybody's alive, so system works. Lights, cars.
That's your thing this
brains.
week. Look, the system works.
You're like, okay, did you see that episode of The Network where they were talking about the do not fly list?
Yeah, like Abdul.
Anyway, that happened here with that lady.
And my anti-lock brakes, which everybody heard. They were loud. Yeah. It was a shitty situation.
Yeah.
Anyway, video games.
Anyway, mic test complete.
If this was Max Payne 5, I would have hit her and a gold piece would have come out of her.
That was last week.
Max Payne 5.
Yeah. Or if it was any
modern
playing? Military game, you would have beat information out of her because torture always works.
With your car. And on this day in 18-something, Wyoming was created.
Nobody remembers.
It's weird that they remember the day.
Yeah.
July 25th for sure.
You there, write this down.
But was it last year?
What year is it, sir? I've hardly learned to read. My God, I had it.
My God. You can probably just look up Wisconsin on the internet.
And that would lead me to Wisconsin's history, not Wyoming's.
You could probably look up Nebraska. That's where you're from,
1868.
Right? You could probably look... Where are you flooding? North Idaho? Where are you?
North Idaho. Chris Remo, California liberal. Yeah, douche. I'm not good at this podcasting thing anymore. The money's changed me.